Welcome to part 6 of my review of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the book just released today. We are continuing the subclass review train. In this episode, we are going to cover the new options and subclasses for the fighter. Before we get started, only a very small percentage of you guys who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you could subscribe, that would be great. It's free and you can always change your mind later. But without any further delay, let's just jump right into the review for the fighter. So here's the fighter, and we're just going to get started right away as there is a lot to cover. We're going to start off with the new optional class features. Starting at level 1, when you choose a fighting style, there are a bunch of new fighting styles that you can choose for your fighter. Starting off with blind fighting. You have blind sight with a range of 10 feet. Within that range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blinded or in darkness. Moreover, you can see an invisible creature that is in range unless that creature successfully hides from you. So blinding effects, if you're in melee range, don't have an effect on you. Pretty nice. Interception. When a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus to a minimum of 0 damage. You must be wielding a shield or a simple martial weapon to use this reaction. So this sounds like the protection one for Paladin where you can impose disadvantage, but it sounds better. Is instead of just imposing disadvantage, you can negate all damage potentially. I think this is a really good one. I think this is one that you're going to see a lot of the more tanking based fighters pick up. Next up, we have superior technique. You learn one maneuver of your choice among those available to the Battle Master archetype. If a maneuver you use requires your target to make a saving throw to resist the maneuver's effect, the saving throw is a DC equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier, your choice. So versatile option to pick here. You gain 1 superiority die, which is a d6. The die is added to any superiority die you have from another source. This die is used to fuel your maneuvers. A superiority die is expended when you use it. You regain expended superiority dice when you finish a long rest. So if you take superior technique as a battle master, you can stack dice, which is very nice. That seems really good. Thrown weapon fighting. You can draw a weapon that has the thrown property as part of the attack you make with the weapon. In addition, when you hit with a ranged attack using a thrown weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to the damage roll. Flat damage after thrown weapons seems pretty good. Unarmed fighting. Your unarmed strikes can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier on a hit. If you aren't wielding any weapons or a shield when you make the attack roll, the d6 becomes a d8. At the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to one creature grappled by you. We might actually see the unarmed fighter meta come in, so look out for that. Next up, we have Martial Versatility, a 4th level fighter feature. Whenever you reach a level in this class that grants the ability score improvement, you can do one of the following as you shift focus of your martial practice. Replace a fighting style you know with another fighting style available to fighters. If you know any maneuvers from the Battle Master archetype, you can replace one maneuver with a different one. So the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is the book of versatility. Being able to change out cantrips, being able to change out fighting styles. We're getting a lot of options here. This is really good. Next up, we have your new maneuver options. You have access to maneuvers. The following maneuvers are added to the list that available to you. Maneuvers are available to battle masters, but also to characters who have a special feature like the superior technique fighting style or the martial adept feat. So here are your new battle master options. Ambush. When you make a dexterity, stealth check, or initiative roll, you can expend 1 superiority die and add it to the roll provided you are not incapacitated. So adding a flat increase to your initiative roll is, I think, where you'd want to put this more likely. Or if you are a fighter with full plate and you have disadvantage on stealth checks, you can most likely negate that disadvantage by adding your superiority die roll. Very nice for this one, obviously. Next up, we have bait and switch. When you are within 5 feet of a creature on your turn, you can expend 1 superiority die and switch places with that creature, provided you spend at least 5 feet of movement and the creature is willing and isn't incapacitated. This movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. Roll a superiority die until the start of your next turn. You or the other creature your choice gains a bonus to AC equal to the number rolled. So if you're trying to protect a priority target, you can swap places with them if they're in a bind and also give them up to a very high amount of AC if you roll well enough on this die. Very good tanking maneuver here. Next up, we have brace. When a creature you can see moves into the reach you have with the melee weapon you're wielding, you can use your reaction to expend 1 superiority die and make 1 attack against that creature using the weapon. If the attack hits, add the superiority die to the weapon's damage roll. So brace is giving you an opportunity attack on entry rather than on exit. Pretty nice there. Commanding Presence. When you make a Charisma Intimidation or Charisma Performance or Charisma Persuasion check, you can expend 1 superiority die and add the superiority die to the check. Bonus to any Charisma rolls. Pretty nice. Grappling Strike. Immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack on your turn, you can expend 1 superiority die and try to grapple the target as a bonus action. Add the superiority die to your athletics check. So being able to grapple as a bonus action is normally a really crazy ability to give a fighter. However, it does come with 2 conditions. 1, the grapple comes after the hit, meaning you do not gain advantage on your melee weapon attack versus a grappled creature. And it also has to hit them. It cannot miss this attack. So that barrier to entry does make this a very balanced ability. I think this is a really nice one that they included. Quick Toss. As a bonus action, you can expend 1 superiority die and make a ranged attack with a weapon that has the thrown property. You can draw the weapon as part of making the attack. If you hit, add the superiority die to the weapon's damage roll. All of these additive damage rolls you get with superiority die are making the fighter's DPS come very closely in line with something like the Paladin in terms of single target damage. I think these are really good changes and additions to this class. Next up, we have Tactical Assessment. When you make an investigation, history, or insight check, you can expend your superiority die and add the number to the check. So, versatile additive dice to specific ability checks. Also additive damage for your superiority die. I know I say the word versatility a lot, but I seriously think that Fighter is now the most versatile class in 5th edition, even beating out the Bard, and that's saying something. Now let's talk about the new martial archetypes added. We have 2 available here, the Sci Warrior and the Rune Knight. Let's talk about the Sci Warrior first. Beginning at 3rd level, we have Psionic Power. You harbor a wellspring of psionic energy within yourself. This energy is represented in your psionic energy dice, which are each a d6. If you have a number of these dice equal to your proficiency bonus, and they fuel various psionic powers you have, which are detailed. Some of the powers expend the psionic energy die they use as specified in the power's description, and you can't use a power if it requires you to use a die when all your dice are expended. You regain all expended die when you finish a long rest. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain 1 expended die, but you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. When you reach certain levels in this class, the size of your psionic die increases at 5th level D8, 11th level D10, and 17th level D12. Here are the powers that you get. Protective Field. When you or one other creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to expend 1 psionic energy die, roll the die, and reduce the damage taken by the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier minimum of 1 as you create a momentary shield of telekinetic force. Psionic Strike. You can propel your weapons with psionic force on each of your turns immediately after you hit a target within 30 feet of you with an attack and deal damage to it with a weapon. You can expend 1 psionic energy die, rolling it and dealing force damage equal to the target, equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. Or Telekinetic Movement. You can move an object or creature with your mind. As an action, that you target 1 loose object that is large or smaller, or 1 willing creature other than yourself. If you can see the target and it is within 30 feet of you, you can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it is a tiny object, you can move it to or from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. Once you take this action, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you expend 1 psionic energy die to do it again. So, with just this ability alone, you gain protection, extra damage, or movement/utility. Very powerful for a baseline level 3 ability. Next up, we have Telekinetic Adept, a 7th level feature. You have mastered new ways to use your telekinetic abilities. Psi Powered Leap. As a bonus action, you can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of your current turn. Once you take this bonus action, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest, or you use another psionic die. Telekinetic Thrust. When you deal damage to a target with your Psionic Strike, you can force the target to make a strength save against a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency plus your intelligence. If the save fails, you can knock the target prone or move it up to 10 feet in any direction horizontally. So you can think of Telekinetic Thrust as a slightly worse version of the Repelling Blast, which is an invocation for Eldritch Blast. As when Eldritch Blast hits, Repelling Blast automatically activates, but it only goes in one direction. This, you can choose the direction, but they get to make a save. So there is a trade-off there. It's still a pretty nice ability overall, but also just getting the ability to fly for Fighter is really good. So that, I think, makes up for it. Really strong level 7 ability. Level 10, Guarded Mind. The psionic energy flowing through you has bolstered your mind. You have resistance to psychic damage. Moreover, if you start your turn charmed or frightened, you can expend a psionic die and have every effect on yourself subjecting you. Moreover, if you start the turn charmed or frightened, you can expend a psionic die and end every effect on you subjecting you to those conditions. I think this is a little weak of an ability to be getting at level 10, but that's just me. Bulwark of Force, level 15. You can shield yourself from and others with telekinetic force. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures, which can include you, that you can see within 30 feet of you, up to a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. Each of the chosen creatures is protected by half cover for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. So ideally, if you have a high intelligence modifier, you're looking at something like a +3, maybe a +4. Again, you can't necessarily just dump everything into intelligence if you're a fighter. So at minimum, I would say probably 3 creatures other than yourself, which would mean you +2 more, or if you're confident in your AC, 3 additional creatures, you can give them +2 AC and an advantage on all dexterity saving throws. So I think this probably should be put somewhere else. I think this is slightly weak for a level 15 ability, but that's just me. I think this should have probably been put with at the level 10 feature, if we're being honest. Once you take this bonus action, you cannot do this again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a psionic energy die. Next up, we have Telekinetic Master, an 18th level feature. Your ability to move creatures and objects with your mind is matched by few. You can cast the Telekinesis spell, a 5th level spell, requiring no components, and your spellcasting ability is Intelligence. Once on each of your turns while you concentrate on the spell, including the turn when you cast it, you can make 1 attack with a weapon as a bonus action. So you can attack while having this active. That is pretty nice. Once you cast the spell with this feature, you cannot do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a psionic energy to cast it again, which at this point, that you're probably going to be using your dice for this ability specifically. So, very nice, flavorful class. Could use probably a little bit of tuning up to make this good, but again, very versatile. Let's talk about the Rune Knight. Let's start at level 3. 3rd level Rune Knight, you get bonus proficiencies with Smith's tools, and you learn to speak, read, and write Giant. Rune Carver, level 3. You can use magic runes to enhance your gear. You learn 2 runes of your choice from among the runes described below. Each time you gain a level in this class, you can replace 1 rune you know with a different one from this feature. When you reach certain levels in this class, you learn additional runes as shown in the runes known table. At 3rd level, you get 2, 7th 3, 10th 4, and 15th 5. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch a number of objects equal to the number of runes you know and inscribe a different rune onto each of the objects. To be eligible, an object must be a weapon, a suit of armor, a shield, a piece of jewelry, or something else you can wear or hold in a hand. Your rune remains on the object till you finish a long rest, and an object can only bear 1 of your runes at a time. The following runes are available to you when you learn a rune. If a rune has a level requirement, you must be at least that level in this class to learn the rune. If a rune requires a saving throw, the rune save DC equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. That's better. You're probably already going to be going high into constitution as a fighter, so this is really complimentary. Very nice. So what are the runes? First off, we have Cloud Rune. This rune emulates a deceptive magic used by some cloud giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on sleight of hand and deception checks. In addition, when you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to invoke a rune and choose a different creature within 30 feet of you other than the attacker. The chosen creature becomes the target of the attack using the same roll. This magic can transfer the attack's effects regardless of the attack's range. Once you invoke this rune, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So, redirecting an attack possibly on one of your allies into an enemy. Very nice, but only once per rest, so pretty balanced there. Next up, we have the Fire Rune. This rune magic channels the masterful craftsmanship of great smiths. While wearing and carrying an object inscribed with this rune, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses your proficiency with a tool. In addition, when you hit a creature with an attack using a weapon, you can invoke the rune to summon fiery shackles. The target takes an extra 2d6 fire damage and must succeed on a strength save or be restrained for 1 minute. While restrained by the shackles, the target takes 2d6 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, banishing the shackles on a success. Once you invoke this rune, you cannot do so again to finish a short or long rest. So for the entirety of that creature's turn, that creature has disadvantage on all attack rolls, and every other creature has advantage on attack rolls against it. This is a really powerful swing ability if this is able to be gotten off. So don't sleep on Fire Rune. Frost Rune, this magic evokes the might of those who survive in the wintry wilderness, such as frost giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with this rune, you have advantage on animal handling and intimidation checks. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action to increase your sturdiness. For 10 minutes, you can eat +2 bonus to all ability checks and saving throws that use strength or con. Once you invoke this rune, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So a more defensive rune here. Next up, we have Stone Rune. Channels the judiciousness associated with stone giants. While wearing or carrying an object inscribed with the rune, you have advantage on insight, and you have dark vision out to 120 feet. In addition, when a creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to invoke the rune and force a creature to make a wisdom save. Unless the save succeeds, the creature is charmed by you for 1 minute. While charmed, the creature has a speed of 0 and is incapacitated, descending into a dreamy stupor. The creature repeats the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success. Once you invoke this rune, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest, so a crowd control or a single target control ability. Next up, we have Hill Rune, 7th level or higher requirement. This rune bestows the magic and resilience of the hill giant. While wearing or carrying an object with the rune, you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. You have resistance to poison damage. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute. Once you invoke this rune, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So just gaining resistance, 7th level requirement does seem pretty fair for something as good as this as a defensive rune. Next up, we have Storm Rune. You can glimpse into the future like a storm giant seer. While wearing an object with the rune, you can have advantage on arcana checks and cannot be surprised as long as you are not incapacitated. In addition, you can invoke the rune as a bonus action to enter a prophetic state for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. Until the state ends, when you or another creature you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, you can use your reaction to cause the roll to have advantage or disadvantage. Once invoked, you cannot do so until you finish a long rest. So 10 rounds of a single creature getting advantage on each of their rolls. Very strong ability in the right circumstances. Once per turn, whether that's broken or not, we'll have to see. Next up, so those are all the runes you have available to you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different possible choices. And at 15th level, you can have up to 5 of these. And all of these are very good abilities. I think the scaling on this fighter is probably one of the best we've seen yet. Next up, we have Giant's Might, 3rd level Rune Knight feature. You have learned how to imbue yourself with the might of giants. As a bonus action, you magically gain the following benefits. It lasts for 1 minute. If you are smaller than large, you become large, along with anything you are wearing. If you lack the room to become large, your size doesn't change. You have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. Once on each of your turns, one of your attacks with a weapon or an unarmed strike can deal an extra 1d6 damage to a target on a hit. So for a single minute, you can become larger, you can add damage onto your attacks, and you just gain advantage on strength checks and saves. Level 3, this is a really powerful ability. You can use this a number of times, able with your proficiency bonus, and you regain all uses when you finish a long rest. So at level 3, you're going to have 2 uses of this per rest. Again, this is going to be really strong. Do not sleep on Giant's Might. Next up, we have Roon Shield, a 7th level feature. You learn to invoke your rune magic to protect your allies. When another creature you can see within 60 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to re-roll the d20 and use the new roll. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So essentially imposing selective disadvantage with this one. A really good tanking ability overall. Let's move on. Next we have Great Stature, 10th level feature. The magic of your runes permanently alters you. When you gain this feature, roll 3d4. You grow a number of inches in height equal to the roll. Moreover, the extra damage deal with Giant's Might is increased to 1d8. Permanent height gain is pretty funny for this. I don't know exactly how to rate this ability, but I like it nonetheless. The extra damage, though, is probably the most key feature here. Next up, we have Master of Runes, 15th level feature. You can invoke each rune you know from the Rune Carver feature twice rather than once, and you regain all uses when you finish a long rest. Just makes the rune abilities better. Runic Juggernaut, they're 18th level. You learn how to amplify your rune power transformation. As a result, the extra damage you deal with Giant's Might increases to 1d10. Moreover, when you use that feature, your size can increase to huge, and while you are that size, your reach increases by 5 feet. You basically just become a giant. I think this is really flavorful and probably my favorite knight or fighter subclass so far. So that is all we have for the new options for the fighter for subclasses and optional rules. There is a section down below talking about build recommendations for Battle Master specifically. You can see things like here. I'll tell you the fighting style to pick, your maneuvers, and your feats. There's a lot of them here. If you guys want me to go over this in a separate video, be sure to leave a comment down below and I will just run through it. If you guys want But for this video, that is everything that is new for the fighter. We got two really nice subclasses. I think the Sci Warrior could be a bit better. Again, just tune the numbers up a little bit, maybe tune the abilities up just a small bit, maybe in some errata down the line. But the Rune Knight has some serious flavor and some serious potential for insane amounts of scaling for the fighter that this fighter already gets with extra attacks. I think adding this level of scaling onto the fighter is going to make them a serious contender for best melee class that we have so far. But guys, that is all I have for you today. If you guys enjoyed this video and have any thoughts, be sure to leave a like and leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't. We got so many more videos coming up very soon on Tasha's Cauldron of everything, so don't miss a single one of those, guys. But until next time, have fun, stay safe, and as always, happy gaming.